morning, sir. First of all, thank you so much for being here. This is an interview that is a part of the youth media of the Adolescents Club of Advanced Healthcare Foundation. And today we'll talk about education and mental health of students in the times of COVID. So, sir, let's start with how are you doing in the times of pandemic?
I'm fine. I'm fine with all of blessings. I'm doing very fine. Thank you.
Yes. So, sir, it has been more than a year since we first went into lockdown, and ever since it has been a round year of online classes and on screen education. Do you feel the pressure on the students has in any way changed?
It's a very good question because when we see that from live classes, they have the conversion has been to a virtual background. So we would see that probably pressures have, in some aspects, have increased. The families in which parents are very overprotective, in the families in which parents are the very, the rigid parenting is there. There, the online classes, they're sitting with their kids and percolating their own anxiety to the kids. So in those conditions, the pressures have increased. The kids they feel that they have been sandwiched between their parents and the teacher who is teaching online, number one. But aspects you can see the live interactions, the social interactions, the emotional interactions, the empathetic interactions which kids used to have in live classes or non-virtual classes. And those they are not finding. So probably they are putting them into much more pressures. So in that sense, the pressures have changed. Definitely they have changed.
Right. So you talked about a virtual background. So in that process, the exposure to on-screen has also increased by vast extent. So how does that affect a psyche of a student?
Yes. Because see, on screen, the Indian Psychiatric Society, we have just put up a recommendation that very small kids should not have on-screen exposures more than an hour. And older kids, it should be parentally monitored. The content has to be parentally monitored, and the screen time should not vary for maybe 2 hours or something. And before sleeping, because in order to have a good sleep hygiene, they should not have screen time 1 hour before sleeping. So this is the guideline as such. But when we talk about the screen time, it has to definitely be monitored because it can create some sort of a mental tiredness. You throughout the day, if child is front of the screen time, we are probably making children artificially autistic. But and technology has benefited us also, because imagine if technology was not there. Having an overdose of screen time can be harmful in the long term. In the short term, they're enjoying it. So they are full fun for it.
So what is
So
the recommended screen time if we talk about that?
younger kids should not be more than an hour. And when we talk about adolescents, it should not be more than 2 hours. And before sleeping, it should be strictly restricted 1 hour, because our mobiles have strong LED bulbs, and they create strong blue lights, which reduces melatonin in our brain. And if melatonin comes down, your sleep will be compromised, your brain will not be fresh, and your chances of going into depression and anxiety.
Right. So, coming back to the student mental health, the conversation around student mental health is one of extreme value and need, especially in the pandemic. But do you think, sir, are we as a society paying enough attention to it?
See, if you start from A to Z, so mental health is basically a positive well-being of the individual. But we start from health itself. So health is physical health and mental health, and then you talk about spiritual health and all. So it is conglomeration of everything. So mental health is subjective well-being of the individual, mental peace of the individual. And when we say about mental health problems, then absence of this mental well-being, and then person is having depression, anxiety, and so on and so forth. And when we talk about the student mental health, so I feel that during this pandemic, we all should realize that it's a very challenging time, and we should always have a self-talk with us, all students, their family members, their parents, as a society, that we are not alone in this fight. Whenever someone goes through negative emotions, tell yourself that this will not be long lasting. We are not alone. Everyone is suffering in this world, and everyone has gone for a lockdown, and the people are going through these shifts. So it will kill the negativity, and it will probably bring some positivity. Now, secondly, you have to also realize if someone is not having COVID cases in their family. So, you have to have structured routine. So you have to have a routine where you get up in the morning, do some exercise, then your classes, and then the homework, some television time or screen time, and then some playing time, then some happy meals together, which family doesn't do. They have to have some happy meals. So there should be a structured routine. And if you take if school says, ki, okay, let us finish those academics, the routine will go for a toss, and then the subsequent, the anxiety, depression will take over. So these aspects should be taken. It is not 1+1 = 2 situation, but there has to be, everyone should be flexible in this pandemic.
Even talking more about this, the anxiety and depression has been seen in the times of pandemic. So you talked about maintaining hope and how we should tell ourselves that everybody's going through it. So what are other mechanisms that students can use to maintain hope and be positive?
It's very important is exercise. They should do exercise, because if you see kids, when they go through this lockdown routines or quarantine routines, or the now in our place there is a lockdown for 7 days, and their routine goes for a hit. So it should start from exercise. Exercise has acute antidepressant and anti-anxiety effects. Now when we go specifically into the mind dynamics, where I'll go now, when we see that why we go into a negative emotional state. Now there has to be a trigger. There has to be a trigger, maybe a loss in the family, a financial loss, or an impending exam coming, or not able to prepare because of XYZ reason. So this is a trigger. Trigger always results in some negative thoughts, which results in some negative emotions like depression, anxiety, sadness, not feeling comfortable. So when child goes through these negative emotional state, or a parent goes through negative emotional state, we should let that emotional state go up. Let absorb the anxiety and absorb the negative emotional state, and it will not be everlasting. It will not be long lasting, and let it go away. And when it goes away, and don't try to actually make a lot of changes at that point of time. You can do some relaxation exercises like deep abdominal breathing or yogic breathing, which is freely available in your YouTube. And subsequently, when that phase goes off, generally it lasts for half an hour or few hours, then subsequently try to find out the trigger. At times the trigger you're not able to find out. Maybe my interview, supposedly my interview is there with you, and I'm feeling anxiety since morning. So I should, after the anxiety, I absorb the anxiety, I'll find the trigger why I'm having this fidgetiness. So okay, my interview is with Shreya, or some youngsters I'll be addressing. So this is a very soft example which I am giving. And once you realize, okay, this is the trigger, subsequently things become better. And in order to alleviate anxiety and depression in kids, there is a huge responsibility of parents to communicate. Sit with them, communicate, talk to them about this COVID pandemic, what they're thinking about, or some parent is having a problem, or distant relative, there is a loss of distant relative. Explain to them. Don't take it for granted that they know, or while discussing with them, their problem would increase. No, the children need communication. We have to sit with them, narrate our experiences, have a narrative approach, and talk to them. We don't talk to them. So frankly speaking, we don't talk to our kids. We are always in instruction mode. Stuff. Don't do that. Just talk to them. Wherever the child is taking you, just go into those areas, go into those unknown spheres. Then you will come to know about those, deep hidden fears of the child. You'll be able to access them at much earlier stage.
So you talked about communication, and that's, I think, very important for
Yeah.
parents and students. And what else can the students and parents do to deal with this exam anxiety together as a team?
See, basically, exams are always undesirable, because exams are a monsters which we have created out of
Yeah.
ourselves. And you have to, as a parent, because it's very difficult to generalize this situation, because there are different parental personalities bringing out these anxieties, throwing out these anxieties over their kids. It is not kids who take this from starting point. Then subsequently, these kids, because of their parental anxiety, they become overachievers. So try to enjoy your studies, try to make it a fun, make notes, make mnemonics, and notes are easier to revise. Have more revision days, have more break days in your timetable. So subsequently, when you have load of, maybe an exam is 3 months away, divide your 3 months into weeks. Divide those 3 weeks into timetable. and have, one day in a week which can be a break day, where if you are lagging, you can adjust your time schedule, or then subsequently you can take a break so that your brain gets refreshed. You can sleep on that day, you can exercise on that day, or see movies on that day. So this kind of a stress management during exam time.
So, sir, I think we'll also talk about, since the cases are extremely on the rise, we'll also talk about how wearing mask is the prime thing at the point. But, sir,
Yeah.
what are the other tips you can advise to all individuals watching this that they should follow and do in the times of pandemic to stay strong, healthy, and positive?
Yes, so I'll start, very importantly, I'll start here with health. So for physical health, you have to exercise, drink a lot of water, do little meditation, do little self-talk, positive self-talk. In you might have in your colonies 10 odd COVID patients, but you tell yourself still, no, the disease affects 97 patients are asymptomatic. It only affects 3% of patients, even if you are struggling at such a large scale. So these kind of positive talks you can give yourself. For mental health, very importantly, I think this is a take-home message for every. Then the two A's are self. What we have to do is either we, accept, or maybe adjust to it by wearing masks and taking precautions. So that is how stress management is. Either change the situation, or change ourselves. Or if change situation is not amenable to change, you completely avoid it and accept the problem.
So, sir, what is your parting word or advice with the audience?
Just accept the present, and be mindful of the situation, and be safe, and take care of your kids and communicate with them. That is very, very important.
I would like to say a very big thanks to you, Dr. Shobit, for the Advanced Healthcare Foundation for taking out time for this discussion. And thank you so much for joining us for this great interview.
Thank you, Advanced Healthcare Foundation. I hope that you continue to carry this wonderful awareness programs for the audience. Thank you so much.